Well, hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and yeah, could not wait. We're on episode 2 of DanDaDan, and yeah, so I think I'm gonna watch the OP for this first episode. I did not have anybody on Discord tell me whether I could or could not watch the OP and ED. I am a little bit fearful if the OP reveals characters that I'm gonna see later on, but it's fine. This is only 12 episodes, so it'll be all right. We'll see. But I'm gonna watch the OP and the ED for this one, and then just go from there. Because nobody on Discord was saying when I put out like a feeler, being like, should I watch the OP and ED? And nobody said anything, so I'm like, okay, I assume I'm all right. So we're just gonna see. But I am really excited. I am drinking a pitch black cup of coffee because as I'm recording this, it is January 16th. I'm recording this ahead of time for scheduling, but our dear, sweet, visionary, genius artist David Lynch has passed away, which is super sad. I love Twin Peaks. I love David Lynch's interviews. I love Eraserhead. I need to watch more movies. I haven't seen Blue Velvet or Mulholland Drive yet, but I love Eraserhead and I love Twin Peaks so much. And so I definitely am probably going to be going on like a David Lynch fest, for the rest of the month into February. But David Lynch, if you watch Twin Peaks, you know about a good cup of black coffee and the phrase, fix your hearts or die. But I felt like DanDaDan was a good show to watch for this occasion because it's very surreal, has some scary / funky aliens and stuff in it, which is a little bit abstract, which seems very Lynchian. So we'll see where it goes. But last week was really interesting. Definitely skirting the line. I'm glad that Momo is as badass as she is. I like the idea of Ken and Momo as a couple already, but I want to see them get more chemistry with one another. But I love the oil and water, but they're both like have a good heart. I like where it's setting up with them. I like that. I want to see it developed further, so we'll see where that goes. But Momo is psychic. She's got some psycho telekinetic powers, and then our dear sweet Ken has been cursed by Turbo Granny. And can apparently run really fast. Maybe, possibly. We'll see where that goes. I told my brother, I saw him, I was like, how dare you with the whole banana thing? And he was like, well, it was going to be banana or weenie, but I felt weenie was a bit too spoilery. And I was like, no, fair. That's definitely true. So yeah, I'm excited, y'all, to see what we get. Before we start, I want to give a very quick shout out over to not only those on Patreon that support the channel, as well as those on YouTube that subscribe and like and comment on the videos, but especially to our philanthropy tier on Patreon, because their extra donations, I give them a shout out in my videos and they help to keep the channel running. So special shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, to Bryant Reed, to Dana, to Damage3245, to Danger Zone, to Danny Don Mai, to Devorin, to Destiny Marie, to Ichu, to Eric, to Fisho, to Ghostly Turnip, to El Freya, Liam Poles, Linden, as well as Murphew, Matthew Palfinier, Nago, Sunspots, Shimoyama, Trails, Translucent Men, Starman AA, as well as Maroni W. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to start this episode and I'm super excited. I hope you all are as well. Last episode was great. I want them to go straight back to Turbo Granny and see if we can undo the curse, but I doubt that's going to happen. We'll just see what this episode brings us. So we're going to start DanDaDan episode 2, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, we're gonna have to do something about this Turbo Granny spirit. Yeah, the end of this episode brought up something I was thinking about the entire time throughout the reaction. In the back of my head, every time we saw her with her hands, Momo doing the thing to keep Turbo Granny under control, in the back of my head, I was thinking, yeah, this works for now, but girl, you're gonna have to sleep at some point. And there we go. So my theory is, I have theories. Now, look, I'm going to say my interpretations of some of the symbolism and some of my theories in this episode. And if you are new to this channel, I like to go into this series blind. And so I've told my moderators they're going to be checking the comments before I read anything. I'm only on episode 2. So a lot of what I say about what the symbolism might mean, about what it's referring to, or what I think are theories, I am very aware that those things that I'm thinking of may be challenged on down the road. So I go into that thinking that because I think that the series focuses a lot about sexuality and about sex and gender and about people, about a hetero couple being, the prominent pair in this series, which we're going to talk about. And I'm really excited about that with DanDaDan. But I realize that what I'm about to tell you all in this discussion is very subject to change. And obviously the theories I put out are subject to change. So the only thing I don't want is people in the comments being like, well, actually, here's what's going to happen. Don't you worry. The show will tell me as we dive in. So as far as this episode goes, I kept thinking like, okay, what are we going to do to get Momo to where she can interact with Okarun, because we can't call him Ken because she'll freak out and be super turned on. With Okarun, what are we going to be able to do for her to be able to use her abilities without constantly having to keep him in check? Which in itself, because this series is making commentary, I feel, about sex and about gender normatives and about gender roles and things, I do think it speaks a lot about those in very intriguing ways. Some are subtle and some are not subtle. But we'll talk about it and what I think about them. But I feel like the very concept that she has to find a way to be able to use her ability without focusing so much on him and keeping him in check is in itself a statement. Now, I don't know if the creator of this series is male or female or non-binary or whatever. I get the impression that they're male from the male gaze that happens in this and from some other aspects that we'll talk about. I get the impression this is a man that wrote this. I could be very, very wrong. I could be very wrong. I will not be surprised if I'm wrong, but I get that impression from a couple reasons. One is because of the male gaze, which is like, I love Momo, and I'm not, when I say this, I know a bunch of like people in the comments will be like, that's not true. When I say this, I don't think that Momo is sexualized necessarily. Part of her character is that she's very empowered and that she likes to show skin. There's nothing wrong with that. Girl wears some short booty shorts, got her hoodie on. I respect that. I love that fashion. I think it's great. But like, for example, in the opening shot where she's like trying to cross her legs and hide herself and hide her clothing, there are some poses there that there's nothing necessarily inherently wrong with them, but they are from a male gaze perspective. And I'm like, yeah, I could see like a male author writing that, and that's fine. But I could be totally wrong. We'll go to from here. I like what they do with Momo's character, though, in establishing her as a fleshed out character that has depth to her, despite from the surface level not seeming like that. So she does not want to hear that Ken name because she's going to be horny on main, going to be like, nope, that's going to set me asunder, so no, we can't do that. And of course, Ken's like, it's my name. like I want to be able to, do that. And I don't know, like I said a few moments ago, the idea, I don't know if it's making a statement on the fact that she's having to forego using her ability for herself to keep a man in check. I don't know if it's making a statement about that. I don't know if that's what it's doing. I feel a little bit bad for Ken in a sense, and we'll talk about that later on in the bedroom scene, where he not only loses his identity, he can't be Ken anymore because she's going to react to it, but he literally has lost his penis. That is the Granny Turbo Granny has taken his penis. And so he literally has been demasculated and stripped of his identity in this one episode. And I don't know how I feel about that. We'll talk about it. I love Ken's character. I guess we should call him Okarun, but I love his character so much. And I love the two of them together. I think what the show is trying to say is interesting. I'm very curious where it goes. I like the idea of subverting to where, mainly, here's the thing. A lot of people kind of dog shows and they call it #feminism if like the lady character, the female character is the protagonist and the male character takes a back seat. I don't necessarily like that. And I would argue I view feminism from like a 1980s like third wave perspective, where it's more about gender equality than it is like the 70s bra burning and like down with men and women are amazing. I'm more of like, I view feminism as a recognition of equality amongst genders. And so what I hope this series does is it presents a way for Okarun and Momo to work together on an even playing field. And what I like about this show so far is that that's the case. They both have two different sets of powers. Okarun is able to run super fast, like speed of sound fast thanks to Turbo Granny, which makes sense to the curse. And Momo has her psycho telekinesis powers. And I like that. I like that they're different. I like that they both are strong. And what I liked about this episode was they both worked kind of in tandem, hand in hand as a pair. There are some things the episode is saying about gender that I'm kind of like, I don't know where we're going with that, but okay. Or that I don't fully agree with, but we'll cross those bridges when we come to. And this is just a fictional anime. It's nothing serious, but it does seem like it's trying to make statements about gender. And I'm like, okay, I'm on board with it. I just feel like they toe a line a little teensy bit, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And I'm sure that's by design. I'm sure it's meant to. Somebody's gonna be like, it's meant to be like this. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, but I feel bad for Kin because he can't go by his name. He has to go by nickname, Okarun. And then he also doesn't have a penis, which sucks for him. Sucks to be him today. Where he's like, I accept it or not, I am Kin Takakura. And I appreciate that about him. He's like, I am who I am. This is my name. Call me by my name. But she kind of like just immediately was like, no, absolutely not. Yeah. And that shot there with her butt in the air where she's like, stop it. And she's flailing. You know, she looks like Ochako from My Hero Academia. And then the curse acts up. Now, in this, the curse makes him look like all like basically Groot on acid. But at the end of the episode, he's all red and everything. So I don't know exactly if that's what that's doing. My theory is at this point that the damn little lucky cat that is reminding me of a cross between Madara that's on my shelf and Kyubey on my shelf. That's what I think it looks like. I think that the cat might be instrumental into keeping Okarun's curse in check because something's got to give. Something's got to give. Momo cannot keep his curse in check all day long while protecting herself. That can't happen, right? That can't happen. So we'll just keep that in line, right? And he's like, Miss Ayase, hurry, use your psychic powers. And the thing is, and we'll talk about this in the bedroom scene, he can't assault her if he doesn't have a penis. So there's that, I guess. But he could also swallow her like it looks like in the last frame, which I think she'll be fine next episode, but we'll see. But it's weird. It puts me at ease as a viewer to know that she can't necessarily be like bothered by the banana because it's not there. There's something about that I was like, okay, cool. But then there's a part of me in my head that's like, I shouldn't have to think that. So I know it's making a statement and the show is making a statement about that for us, the viewer. It's just very interesting. And I'm going to be curious to see where they go with that. If they're going to keep up talking about gender and sexuality and sex and all of that in this series. If all these aliens are after bananas, it looks like that could be a constant, but we'll see where we go. Let me gobble that weenie. Mm-hmm. And then we have Turbo Granny and she's like, no. And I love that. I do love the framing where she like knocks him out and puts him back there. And he's like, thank you for getting me back in check. And she's like, let's set a few rules. Because you like the occult, you're Okarun. And he's like, Okarun, okay. And then I did like the framing where it was the little boxes, like a panel from a manga. And if you use that other name, I'll kill you. And he's like, but that's my name. It's my own name. And he's like, I guess I have no other choice, so that's fine. Sure. He goes along with Momo. And she's like, well, you don't see that they don't see that upset about it, Okarun. And she tries to tease him. And he's like, well, this is against my will. And she's like, well, let me see your face. And then she tries to tease him, being like, look how happy you are. And I love that he farts in her face. That actually was really funny, where he's like, you know, you're teasing me, so this is what you get. And she gets mad at him, but he's like, look, you're the one that put your face near me, so sorry. I like the guy on the bike watching them as they go. You're putting pressure on me, Miss Ayase. Mm-hmm. And he says, already morning. Now, their theory is that the curse would not be an issue after morning and Turbo Granny wouldn't come out. Well, this episode proved that wrong. Now, the one thing I was going to note about this in the reaction, the one thing that I was kind of like, about in terms, the animation this episode was fantastic after the opening. And the opening, oh my God, the opening animation, beautiful, stunning, beautiful and stunning. But the one thing is, this happened in Jujutsu Kaisen as well. And in Jujutsu Kaisen, it felt very stylistic and I liked it, but it's when you have dialogue and characters walking and talking, and instead of showing you the characters walking and talking, it just shows you scenery around town, just scenery. In Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, there's an episode where that happens, but I like it in that episode because it makes sense with the plot and what's going on. And there's a stylistic quality to it that's justified by the moment and what's happening. And so you're like, okay, and it's doing certain things. I didn't mind it there. I thought that there was a reason behind it. Here, it feels a little lazy in that scene, not animating them talking and just showing it, but it could be in the manga that way. So we'll let them have that. But the rest of the episode was amazing. The animation the rest of the episode was really, really good. So she says, why don't you come to my place? It's like, And then she's like, that outfit, I mean, they have been through hell. She's like, you look worse than a ghost or an alien. And he's like, well, you know, I did go through hell and back. So yeah, here we are. Yeah. Oh man, the OP is great. I don't want to read too much into the OP, but I feel like I'm glad I didn't watch it last episode because of the whole Turbo Granny thing. But there were a few extra characters. We'll see who they be. We also, his poor hair is fried because of Turbo Granny. The cat is curious. But yeah, I like the idea of the constant struggle of Okarun trying to control the curse within him and then working alongside Momo. Honestly, that's what I want this whole season. I want Momo and Okarun to work together. I want them both. And what I like so far about this series is that they both are side by side and they're tackling this together. And I like that because it's very fresh for shonen for the female character, unless the female character is the protagonist, to not take a back seat to the other character. And here, they are side by side, which I appreciate quite a lot. So yeah, so they get to the shrine. We don't know where the grandma is, although the entire episode, I was kind of glad the grandmother didn't show up because the grandma seems very traditional. And I was like, if she sees Momo standing there in a young man's like school uniform and she's just down to her underwear and he's sitting there in his underwear, like I could see the grandmother getting the wrong impression. Also, I love I hate that he catches on fire. Poor Okarun / Ken Takakura. Poor man. He suffers this episode. He suffers quite a bit. He catches on fire. She has to put him out. They have to take a talisman down. I love the idea of the talismans. I know it's Japanese, but I kept thinking of like Modao Zushi, the donghua with it. And I love the humor of him. The physical humor is really funny in this show. And she's like, you have like a granny perm. And he's like, my hair's like Turbo Granny. Great. Awesome. My thing was, how did he not notice until now that he didn't have a penis? How did he not notice that? I mean, I'm not a man, so I don't know. Are you always aware of your peni? Asking for a friend, are you always aware of your penis? And do you always realize it's there? Is it relevant? Or do you just forget that it's there sometimes and you're like, oh yeah. But also, how's he gonna pee? I guess, just how does he pee? Does it just come out? I'm curious. I'm curious. The anatomy has me curious how this is going to work. And this show seems like the type of show that would ask said questions. So we'll see where it goes to. But yeah, that lucky cat that's sitting there. A part of me wondered if like the grandma, if like her spirit couldn't happen to the lucky cat, and maybe the lucky cat's the grandma. I don't know. Because she's a medium or a spirit, or, she's psychic as well. I don't know. I also wanted to comment real quick that the shoes, something about little details in this series. You have the shoes of Ayase Momo, and then you have Okarun's shoes. Okarun's shoes, he just lays neatly right there. And then Momo's are like off to the side, off kilter. Again, this show kind of subverts the gender norms a little bit because I like that Momo isn't some dainty schoolgirl, and she's also not like Daphne from Scooby-Doo. She is very capable of thinking on her own. She's very smart and resourceful. She's got some street smarts to her. She freaks out like anybody else, but she's not a Mary Sue, and I like that about her character quite a bit. But then I say that, and in the same breath, we get her bedroom, which I like. Her bedroom is this combination of like leopard print and like pinks, but it also has like the poster of Ken Takahura and all that. Like, I like that a lot. And then she has all her books and everything. And so she's like, you need to sit outside while I change my clothes. Of course, one thing that I do like about this series is like the curse and everything. One thing I do like is that it's forcing these two to be together in the same space. I like that she keeps the door open where she can see him through the mirror. And then she tells him that she was like, well, we're about the same size, luckily, so you can put this on, right? You know, so she's like, you don't have anything down there, do you? Because the Turbo Granny said she'd steal your weenie. One thing that I like about this is it's forcing them to be in a close space together. So it's forcing them to be in close contact and to develop chemistry and a relationship. And it feels organic how that happens, which I really like. But man, so Okarun gets the treatment. He gets the full on, like, you get to wear, instead of, again, subverting the genders, you get to wear, like, the girlfriend's clothes instead of the girlfriend wearing the boyfriend's clothes. And then he finds out that his penis is gone, which is, you know, problematic for many reasons. And he's like, what? He's like, what do you mean? And she's like, did you not notice? And he's like, I didn't look. And she's like, oh, it's fine. She's like, this is all the clothes I'm going to be wearing. But yeah, so she gives him this sweater and everything and tells him to look. And she's like, now, I will say, Turbo Granny said that you're being cursed because your weenie's been taken. I do think that Momo is pushy. That's part of her personality. Momo is pushy. And she's like, come on, let me see it, everything. And he's like, no. And feeling very emasculated in this moment. I don't know how I feel about the fact that he doesn't have a penis. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm kind of torn because a part of me in that moment, oddly enough, was thinking, oh, good, they can get closer now. And I was thinking that because I'm like, well, he can't hurt her. He doesn't have a penis. And then I thought about it. I'm like, that's such a weird thing to think, right? So there's a part of me that does feel like because he can't possibly be a sexual threat to her in that regard, that will let their two characters grow closer together. And there's not a risk factor in that. And part of me feels like that's by design by the creator, because usually whenever a male and female character are in a story like this together, it's like, oh, they're going to end up like getting married and having babies one day, or there's like a sexual threat or something. And you know, I've read series on this channel where that's happened. And so part of me was like, okay, good. That's off the table. We don't have to worry about that now. But then there's another part of me that's like, I kind of feel for Okarun because it feels like he doesn't get to be all of himself in this scene. He doesn't get to use his name. He doesn't get to, you know, ascribe his masculinity. It's kind of been taken from him in this moment. So I don't know how to feel about that. And I feel like maybe that's intentional. The mangaka wants us to think about that and being like, what feels weird about this picture? It's like, why can't we have nice things and let him... It almost seems like the mangaka is saying, I have to take away his penis, or there will be an expectation that when Turbo Granny's curse takes over, he might try to harm Momo, like the aliens did wanting the bananas. And it's like, And maybe the mangaka is making a statement with that. I don't know. Right now, I'm fine with it, but I do honestly feel bad. The last thing I would want for the characters I care about is for them not to have their identity or agency stripped. And I'm happy that Momo has her agency and she has her identity, but it does make me kind of reflect and go, man, well, I wish that Okarun kind of had his. And that also is what leads me to believe that maybe it is a male author, because maybe the male author's like, this is the only way this will work. And I'm like, well, no. Did you watch Sailor Moon? So Tuxedo Mask didn't have to have his penis taken away to hang out with Serena, but it's fine. But yeah, so I don't know how to feel about that. I'm kind of torn about this plot point. I'm okay with it, and I'm very curious. I'm more curious than anything to see what they do with it. But also, I'm curious, like, how does he pee? Like, how does that happen? But anyway, so Just like, because she's like, oh, show me what it looks like. And he's like, no, are you stupid? He's like, the issue isn't whether or not there's anything there. And she says, I wasn't interested in your occult stories to begin with. I only picked a fight because you kept talking to me. So, and that's when he makes the comment there by saying, yeah. He's like, I didn't want to miss my chance with you. My chance to make a friend. That's the thing that kind of makes me almost be like, I don't think that they had to take it away from him. Because I think that Okarun is a good character in himself, and that he's all about, he's like, I just wanted to be your friend. And I thought that I'd, miss this chance if I didn't act on it. I do love that he was going to leave the magazine behind, and then he went back and got it. that part was really, really funny. And he says, but in the end, you live in a different world, Miss Ayase. You're not someone that a person like me should be talking to. And see that, I'm like, I want Okarun to have more self-confidence in himself. Because Momo has a lot of self-confidence. Momo is very assured of herself. She knows who she is. She is like ready to take on the world. She just, has bad taste in men up until Okarun comes around. And I want Okarun to have some self-confidence in himself, right? Like, just because she's different than you doesn't mean you can't talk to her. And he apologizes. He's like, I got you into all of this danger. And when it's all over, you can ignore me again. But I'm like, but Momo doesn't want to do that. And she's kind of like, you know what? No. She says, that's the annoying part about you. You assume how others feel and jump to conclusions without asking. I love the fact that they are so communicative with each other. I love that he explains how he feels. He is honest with her. He explains what he's thinking about himself and how he's kind of self-loathing and kind of down on himself. And then she's like, why do you assume this is how I feel? You don't know me. So why do you assume I don't want to be friends with you? I love the communication between them. It's really, really good. I love it. And she's like, the reason why I think you don't have friends is because you shoved them away. And because you're too worried about yourself. And you're fine. And she's like, don't say that I can ignore you. We can just talk about the occult like normal. I love that I love you wipe his tears. She's like, look, we can talk about the occult. You don't have to be weird about it. And that's, something a lot of guys need to hear. You don't have to be weird about it. Just be normal. It's fine. Just be a friend to someone. And if stuff happens, again, that's why I'm torn, because the fact that the penis is removed from the equation now kind of takes away from all the horny grossness that you see sometimes with shonen towards female characters when they're around male characters. And then it's like, okay, now instead, why don't we just talk like normal people and see if it goes from there? That's the part that I do care about and I like about it a lot. And he's like, fine. I do love Momo. And the moment that he kind of like is like, okay, we can do that, she gets closer to him. So she's like, come on, say something. And I love she pokes him. That was really funny. And then, of course, he's like, you're ugly. And she's like, what? She's like, I was nice to you. And he's like, you're ugly. She's like, what'd you say, punk? And he says, you're completely tactless. Also, one thing I love about them is that they're all like mushy gushy and like, oh, I don't want to, They're like, you're being ridiculous. Like, I love the fact that they both get onto each other. And she's like, what is tact? And then the doorbell rings. So we assume that this is an alien, that this is the alien because they want the bananas and is posing as a spirit. And it got through because they tore the talisman off the door, right? And they're like, well, we can't just go put it back. We got to sneak around. And then I also liked the idea of, I like to say we got to leave the plot now. We need to get out of here. We got to leave the plot. We got to go. But I like the fact that it's kind of like a boss level. Like, we got to get out and make it past the gate. Which, for Momo to figure out that she's going to have to get the pulp beat out of her in order to get past the gate, girl. Mm-mm. And kudos to Momo, because she could have just had Okarun be shoved into it over and over again using his powers and the curse, but instead she chose to take it into her own hands and use herself as the one to do it, which was really good. I liked that a lot. So yeah, they can't get out because of the talisman's part of it. I guess it becomes like, I don't know if it's a spaceship or what the situation is. But yeah, the poison from the fog is making them all like start to lose consciousness and start to like bleed all over from their noses. And then the monster itself, the alien slash ghost, creepy as hell. Nope. Creepy. And the fact that it was all in black and white, I loved the black and white. And I loved the color spotting of Turbo Granny against the gray. Like that was just so aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, so we don't exactly know the whole thing about the spirits versus the aliens. I love the animation of this whole scene in black and white. It looked really good. And them running away. I like that throughout all of this fight scene, they are side by side, working together as equals, which was really great. I loved that. Absolutely. And the fact that both of their body types are very similar to one another is really nice too. It is hashtag feminism in the sense that they're both equals working together. I still think it would have been modern if you just let him keep his penis, but it's the world building. We'll let it go. If it keeps Momo from being a target of unnecessary actions, then I'm fine with that. But yeah, this sumo thing was crazy. I love that Momo figured out that it was like a sumo wrestler. And she's like, if we just get its hand to go down, then we can do that. Now, apparently, Okarun knows it's a Flatwoods monster and that's an alien. They were first witnessed in a town in America called Flatwoods. That does not look American, but we'll go with it. It's fine with the collar. And I guess maybe the collar is what it is. And it's just, it took on the appearance of a sumo wrestler because it's in Japan. So Momo figures out if we have its hand touch the ground, we'll be fine. But I like that Okarun gets the idea. He's like, maybe I can control this if you can help me. It felt very much like a manga moment, like a fourth wall breaking, where he's like, well, if you can let me, and I love he used the monster hand to like push up his glasses. You just let me, you focus your power on me, keep my mind, and I'll transfer my body. And she's like, I just started doing this last night. But it works. It works. It's really good. But I love it's in character for Momo that she considers the sumo alien cheating to be the worst, most egregious thing. That she's like, you didn't cheat, you cheated. You were supposed to stop when your hand touched the ground and be disqualified. How dare you, sir? Also, I don't know if it is a statement because whenever Okarun taps into the Turbo Granny powers, I love the mask, I love the hair, I love all of that. Whenever he taps into the powers, he's instantly depressed. He's just like, oh, I'm sad. I'm brimming with power, but I'm totally depressed. And I don't know if that's a commentary on like toxic masculinity in society, that once a male character gets all this power and access to all of this like power and they're all just like blown up and their ego's inflated, what actually is underneath all of that is that they are actually like just sad. It doesn't fill the void. It still leaves them wanting more. Maybe it's a commentary on that. Maybe. Although I think it's still the same voice actor, but they like changed the voice so much. Now, the accent that Okarun does in that moment where he keeps saying yo and has like the Kansai Ben on the end. Was she getting flustered because it was the same way that Ken Takakura talks in the movies? Was that it? And so Okarun says this isn't the speed that most humans can go in. And that his body feels like it's bracing into a million pieces. Funny that, I say Tanjiro's voice actor plays him, but I was thinking of My Hero Academia character who focuses on the fact that their body can't hold up with the power that they contain inside of them. Seem relatively related to that, but I definitely think there's going to have to be a way where Okarun can use the curse to be Turbo Granny without having to rely on Momo holding the curse back all the time. There has to be a way for that to work. And I feel like the cat is the key to all that. But damn, they make Momo look great in this episode. She looks wonderful. And I love her. As someone that wears an oversized sweatshirt with shorts like that, I appreciate the aesthetic. But yeah, she gets pissed that he cheats. And she's like, how dare you? So she decides to do her own and is like, I'm not that this wimpy alien pissed me off. And then, of course, I love that Okarun's trying to protect her and telling him to stop. And she's like, no, this depth is beyond and outside the Torii gate. And then she grabs him and they manage to get the seal up there and light the alien on fire. Nice. So yeah, they managed to make it outside. And honestly, there is the stereotypical man has fallen into woman's bosom shot that's like in how many shonen anime now. But here, I tolerate it. I think it's fine because she's just like, yeah, I saved you. Here we go. We worked together on this. This was great. I think it works. Unfortunately, she passes out finally. She likes the new hairdo. And then she collapses. And at that point, no one's there to control the curse anymore. And he starts to get taken over by Turbo Granny. And then he's left about to consume Momo. This series definitely feels, like I said in the reaction, like a cross between Jujutsu Kaisen and Mob Psycho 100, which I love both of those series. So I'm perfectly fine with this one. But yeah, I think my favorite aspect about this show is the fact of Momo and Okarun working together. It's been a while since I've shipped a heterosexual couple like this before, and it's refreshing. But yeah, there is a part of me that feels like some male commenters might be like, oh, well, why did they have to emasculate Okarun in a sense to get him to be able to work with her? I could see that. And I could see that argument. And that is one thing that I'm like, I would like Okarun, because in my mind, you know, people like, you know, that are the type of body type and introverted state that Okarun is, they're not any less than a man than someone that's buff and loud and whatever. Like, you're both men. It's just like women can be totally different personalities and totally whatever, and they're still women. So I'm still torn on the concept of, do I feel like we've emasculated Okarun for this part of the episode so that he can get along with Momo and be with her? Should that be the case, or is that even it? I'm very torn on the subject. I'm not mad at it. I just don't know how to feel yet. And I feel like I need to see the season all the way through before I have an overarching opinion about it. So just know my opinions are going to be developing over the course of these next 10 episodes. But I really like the fact that Momo and Okarun are together in this. I do like it. I like that they're fighting together. For now, maybe, seemingly. Don't know how this is going to go with Turbo Granny, but I guess we're going to see. So in any case, I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below. I hope you enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I'm very curious to see what we get in episode 3. So, and what the deal with this cat is. But meanwhile, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back really soon with more of DanDaDan. Bye.